Today we're going to review and talk about graphing and writing parabolas. You've done parabolas before, but we're going to use the standard form of a conic equation. So for a parabola that's either facing up or facing down, we're going to use x squared equals 4py. And our job is to find the focus. So we're going to graph the parabola, graph the vertex, axis of symmetry, and the focus and the directrix. Okay, so we've got the focus equals P. So we're going to count P from the directrix, and that's where your focus is going to be. And notice that the P is in the formula. We have the directrix, and that's the opposite of P. So wherever you count P, you're going to count in the opposite direction from the vertex. And so P is counted from the vertex, so you go, you count to find the focus, or you go in the opposite direction and you count to find the directrix. Because remember, the distance from the focus is the same distance to the directrix as the line behind the parabola. Okay, so the focus is actually inside of the parabola or inside the curve. So I always say that the parabola wraps around the focus because that helps me to remember where it is. And then what I do is I say, okay, well, the directrix is behind the parabola or outside the curve. All right. If you're talking about a parabola that's reflected across the x-axis or it's upside down, then your formula is going to look something like x squared equals, and there's going to be a negative right here, like you would expect. Before, when we did parabolas or quadratics, when we had a negative, it was upside down at that time too. So it's the same thing. Okay, so now let's look at doing an example. So we're given x squared equals 8y. So the p is inside of the equation right now. If we look at comparing these two equations, we're comparing the equation that we have to graph with the standard form or the formula. So we get 4p equals 8. So p equals 2. So we're going to go to the vertex, which is 0, 0, and we're going to count 2. Okay, this is a parabola that's facing up, so if we count 2, then what we're going to do is count from the vertex up 2. All right. Now, the width of the parabola is 2p. It just so happens that this number is the full width of the parabola, and the width from the focus is 2 times p, which would be 4. So basically what we're doing is we're taking 8 and we're dividing it by 2. Let's watch here. So if I do 4 this way and 4 this way, then I have the width of the parabola. But you've got to count from the focus left and right. Okay, watch. Here's the original equation. This is the coefficient in front of the y. Okay, the x squared is on this side. So this coefficient right here tells me how wide the parabola totally is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, if I were to take p and multiply it times 2, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would have half of this width. Okay, if I were to take 8 and divide it by 2, then I would go 4 this way and 4 this way. So you can think of it however you want to. Sometimes what I do is I look at this number right here and I say that's the total width. So I just make sure I've got 8 going all the way across at the focus. All right, so if you have any questions about that, let me know. Okay, so let's see here. We've got, right here, I'm going to say width is 2p if you're counting it from the focus. You got to count both ways. You got to count one way and then the other way. Okay? All right, now let's draw the directrix. So that is y equals -2. What I need you to do is remember that we have to label each thing. So the focus is a point, 0, 2, directrix is a line, y equals -2, and still we need to do the axis of symmetry, which is x equals 0. You might be used to that, but it's going to start changing as soon as the parabola starts facing different directions. All right, so I've done one example on the left-hand side, and I want to do another example kind of using the same direction that the parabola is facing. So we're talking about that it's facing up and down because we're using the same standard form of the equation, the x squared equals 4py. Okay, in this situation, I'm given p equals -6 and directrix is y equals 6. I'm not given an equation. And most of the time what's going to happen is if you get this information, you're going to be asked to write the equation. The problem is that it's kind of hard to see. I mean, if you can see it in your head, that's fine. But if you can't, look at what I'm doing here. I'm drawing it out. So if you do x squared equals, okay, now let's do this one more time. You've got your vertex is 0, 0. If the vertex changes, they will tell you, the problem will actually tell you the vertex is going to be 0, 0, p is -6, and the directrix is y equals 6. Well, if the directrix is y equals 6, okay, and then we go in the opposite direction, -6 from the directrix, then what's going to happen is that's going to tell us the direction of the parabola, which right now this parabola is going to be facing down from this vertex around this focus. Okay, so if I take x squared equals 4py, well, instead of putting p there, I put a -6. So now I get x squared equals -24y. You have just written the equation of this parabola, okay? So sometimes they're going to give you the equation, you're going to graph. Sometimes they're just going to give you some information and you're going to have to write the equation, okay? I'm going to show you how to find the width of this parabola. Remember I said 24 across? It has to be 24 across, regardless of this negative. That's just telling you it's upside down. So if it's 24 across, then I got to go 12 this way and 12 the other way, which I didn't have any room. Okay, all right, there's the equation. Okay, here are some things to remember. Number one, vertex. You've got to know where your vertex is. If it doesn't say, you're going to assume it's 0, 0. Okay, number two, which way to count P? Okay, remember P will tell you where your focus is, the location of your focus, and you've got to count P from your vertex. 3, your directrix. Where's your directrix? If you count in one direction for your P to find the focus, then you're going to count in the opposite direction to find your directrix. P is going to find your focus, which is a point. Directrix will be a line. Okay, so now look at this. If you say x squared equals 4 times 4, y equals 16. Okay, let's just review this one more time. Okay, if you know your focus is 4 away, then you know that your P is 4. So if you put the P, which is my number 4 right here in red, if you put your P here, you know your equation is going to be x squared equals 16y. I want to show you again how to find the width. Okay, just to review. Okay, so you've got 2p is right here. If you take the 16, you should have 16 going all the way across, a total of 16 for the width of the parabola. If you multiply 2 times p, Okay, that'll give you 2 times 4, which is 8. That would be the 8 this way or the 8 this way. If you divide 16, which is your total number here, divide by 2, you still get 8. That's how far you're going to go this way or this way. So you can think of the width of the parabola either way. You can do it this way with your 2p. You can do it this way where you take this total and divide by 2. Or you can just say, it's supposed to be 16 all the way across. Let me just do half and half. Okay? So here we go. We're going to do 8 this way. This is the way I usually do it. I say, oh, it's supposed to be 16 all the way across, so I'm going to go 8 one way, 8 the other way, and boom, I've got the width of my parabola. Okay, here we go. We are going to do an example of a y squared equals 4px parabola. This means that the parabola is going to be facing left or right, and I have to find p, so I'm going to compare those and go, oh, okay, well, 4p equals 12, so p has got to equal 3, so I'm going to count 3, okay? There's no negative in here, so if there's no negative, it means it's positive, which means p is positive, so you're going to count to the right. Remember, a y squared, if you square rooted all this, in order to get y by itself, you'd have the square root of x, which would be a square root graph, which would take you back to a previous chapter, and that's why it looks this way. That's why the parabola is going to be facing right. Okay? All right, so here we go. We've done the focus, which is at, we're going to count 3, 1, 2, 3 to find the focus, and then we're going to do the total, which is 12. So we should have a total of 12 going all the way across, or if we split that up, that'll be 6 this way, 6 this way. So there's the width of my parabola. Okay, the directrix is on the opposite side, which is going to be x equal -3. And my axis of symmetry is y equals 0. Notice it changed because the direction of the parabola changed, so everything else is going to change. You're going to have to just look at it and say, what is that line? Okay? You can't memorize all these. It's going to be like reading a book. All right. We're going to do another example, but this time we're going to write the parabola. So we're going to write the equation of the parabola. So what they're going to give you is something like this. Focus equals 1.5, 0. And the directrix is x equal -1.5. So if I do 1.5, 0, and I do the directrix, which is -1.5, I'm just going to sketch it real quick so I can see which way the parabola is facing. All I have to do is write the equation here. So now I know I'm going to use a y squared equals 4px form of the equation. Okay, p, if I count p, I know p is 1.5 because they've told us if I go and plot it and everything, I can count that. So now I know that I've got y squared equals 6x, and there's my equation. Now, I knew that it was facing right, and I knew that it was, if it was facing right, then I knew that that was a positive number. That's why I know that this one's going to be positive. So this and this match. And there's my answer. Okay, that's it for today. We've got to practice graphing and writing parabolas in this way because you're so used to doing it the other way. So I want you to make sure you know all these rules, okay? Because remember that we have a lot of rules in conics, and we must actually understand which ones apply to which graphs, okay? All right, thank you for watching.